Hey guys, so I'm excited to share with you the next Bigger Than Me Changemaker podcast. I've had an awesome chat with Warren Ferrer, the foundation executive for the Do More Foundation, and they're doing some awesome work within the early childhood development sector and food security sector. I'm really excited to share this with you and I hope you enjoy it. So without further ado, here's my chat with Warren. Enjoy. Warren, hi, how you doing?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Good. Thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
No worries at all.
Warren, so you guys have been doing. I've been watching what the Do More Foundation has been doing for a little while, and you've been doing incredible work. Obviously in the fields of early childhood development center and specifically focused around childhood development and helping children and sort of being able to give them all the opportunities that they can so that they don't necessarily get left behind. But maybe you just want to give us a little bit of an overview of what exactly the Do More's Foundation's mission is.
Sure. So we kind of quite unique in terms of other foundations out there because we link to a big food producer. Okay, so the foundation, I mean, the amazing thing about the foundation is that it was only founded 3.5 years ago. So we are relatively new, and we have a really small team of people. And it was founded back then on the basis that the foundation, we operated as a corporate social investment arm of RCL Foods. And we realized that we were inhibited by the funding. Well, not inhibited, but we needed more funding than we got just from RCL Foods as a corporate social investment arm. And we needed to partner and collaborate in a much bigger way. And so the foundation was set up. And when it was set up, we looked at what are the issues in our country? Where are the continual intergenerational poverty issues? And we looked at the early childhood development as an area that seriously needed support and where we could work in a very collaborative partnership way, because that's the success of how we operate, but work in a very collaborative partnership way in communities affecting young children and positively affecting young children. And so, I mean, your listeners and you will know of all the issues within young children. I mean, I didn't know this when I was kind of getting into the space, right? Before, I understand I've been in the corporate social investment arm for over 10 years and prior to that in marketing. So, my expertise are not embedded in early childhood development, but when we kind of got into the early childhood development space, realized that 90% of brain growth takes place before the age of 5. Now, I was fortunate enough to go to like varsity and all that kind of stuff. And I always thought, well, okay, that's where I got that's where you get your kind of knowledge, intelligence, but it's so wrong, So it's in those early years. And the issue is that so many of our children don't have those opportunities in the early years. So statistically in our country, they talk about 27% of our children in our country are stunted, which means that nearly a third of our children will never reach their potential, because stunting means that it's not the physical stunting of the child. So if a child is stunted, it is physically stunted, it's shorter. But that's not the issue. The issue is the cognitive stunting of our children. And so sadly in our country, nearly a third of our children will not reach their potential because the right things are not in place for when they are small. And so early childhood development is a critical area in our country. And when you look at things like government spending in certain sectors, if you look at secondary school education, tertiary school education, you look at early childhood development, it's a tiny slither of what government spends their money on. And actually, it's the most critical part of human development. So So we as a foundation have got community projects focused on early childhood development. So for instance, in Umkamasi, in Mpumalanga, we have an MOU with the Department of Education, Social Development and Health. And we are trying to implement the national ECD policy for real children in a real community, because essentially our government has amazing policies. The problem is the implementation of them. So what we are trying to do is implement it for real children in a very geographically defined community, and make that a reality. And that's been going on for quite some time. We're having success in that space, and we are trying to now expand from the wards that we're trying to expand into other wards. So that's the kind of work that we do, and we are we obviously linked to RCL Foods, and RCL Foods is one of the biggest food companies in South Africa, and we have a big production facility in that area, and so we are able to influence. We are able to use that influential power that we have linked to our founder in order to change things. So whether it's working with the municipality, whether it's working with other companies, we are able to make an impact and use that ability to collaborate and power. In Worcester, we are doing something slightly different, but again, focused on young children. And there we have co-created a vision for an entire town. And we've done that because, again, our founder is a big business partner in Worcester. It's probably one of the biggest businesses in Worcester, and therefore we are able to get the attention of things like the municipality, local governments, etc. And there we're working with various stakeholders. So we're working with the ECD forums, and you interviewed some of the ECD practitioners. So the ECD forums, we're working with the municipality, we're working with local businesses, we're working with the churches, faith-based organizations, etc., in order to together come and change things for young children in that space. And so, you know, we've got another project in Hammersdale, and that's started as food gardens and went to community gardens, and they've now got business contracts. We've got enterprise development work in that space. Enterprise development work in that space, again, everything that we do as a foundation tries to support young children. So that's really in a nutshell what we do, and we frame it as creating better tomorrows for the young children of South Africa. That's our vision. Yeah. Creating better tomorrows for the young children of South Africa.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's, you know, from what I've seen, and obviously, you know, last year, towards the end of the last year, we went and visited some of those, you know, some of the early childhood development centers, and we chatted to some of the ladies there that are just phenomenal, and completely blown away about, you know, the work that they're doing and how much they care, and it's a very similar sort of story that I've seen, where you get one of these women in these communities, very strong in the community, and she's taken it upon herself to do something about helping the children in their community, because they literally are destitute, you know, and are on the streets or whatever, and there are these incredibly strong women that are doing such great work despite all the challenges that they're having, you know. And it was bad before COVID kind of came into the picture, and now it's even worse. I mean, so can you just sort of let us know, and that's what we wanted to try and portray when we went and chatted to them.
Yes.
But can you sort of let us know, sort of firsthand, how that's had an effect in terms of the work you're doing, and obviously the focus, and how you've had to sort of tweak what you're doing, or you know, level up in terms of what you've been doing from a support point of view?
Yeah, so I mean, COVID has been devastating for our country. It really irritates me sometimes when I speak to people and they go like, "Oh my God, no, COVID has been amazing, and we're now working from home, and it's a bit changing lifestyle." I'm like, no idea of the crisis that the most impoverished in our country find themselves in. And when COVID hit us, way back in March last year, we realized that as a foundation focused on young children, and part of our support to young children is food into the ECD centers. And we realized that not majority, but all of the children were not going to access that food that we know is often an incentive for children to actually go to school.
Go to school, yeah.
So
middle of the day sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, and so realizing that, we were like, we got to get food to children. And so immediately we said, right, how do we get food to children? Well, yes, we linked to a big foods company. We can get food. And we were very fortunate that we get food at cost. What we did is we came up with a Do More porridge, which is actually, it's a fortified sorghum-based porridge. So now we got the product, but how do we fund this thing? So we set up a massive funding campaign. And again, we were very fortunate in being able to use the partners, leverage the support that we already have and connections that we have in order to make this happen. And what I mean by that is we contacted our advertising agencies linked to some of our brands to say, we need to get awareness out there. How do we do that? So they were like, well, TV ads, billboards, radio commercials. Okay, so that's cool, but that costs a lot of money. And they were like, well, we will do it pro bono for you. So we ended up creating these TV ads, etc., all these social media campaigns in order to create awareness. Then obviously we try to, we spoke to funders, etc. And it was amazing, these people that came together in order to help us do that. And what I found, what was interesting for me is that I think we were in a very unique position to other organizations out there. So there are lots of organizations distributing food, but not all of them actually manufacture their own food, get their own food. Big suppliers in across South Africa that can leverage things like media and all that kind of stuff. So we're exceptionally fortunate to be able to do that. But just coming back to the issue, what we realized is that, some of the young children that we were providing food to were not accessing it. But what was even more critical as COVID and lockdown continued is the number of people that found themselves unemployed, without work. And so we were trying to get food to our young children, but realizing that actually this is no longer just the young children that aren't accessing food. Actually, whole families were starving and hungry. The situation, so we really stepped up as an organization to try and help particularly young children, but also their families. And so we provided, I think it was 8.5 million meals during the COVID time, from March through to the end of the year. And we will continue to do that over the coming campaigns. We did some amazing, it's a continual work around publicity, awareness, and we'll continue to do that work for the next 2 years. We have a massive feeding program for the next 2 years. And we need to obviously, I was having a conversation this morning about how do we fund this thing? We're going to, that's not good enough. In 2021, we need to build on what we've done. So I'm letting you just know about some work that we're planning and we're actually doing right now. Is we're actually that work that we did last year, that feeding is great and absolutely necessary, and we will continue to do it, but it's not good enough. It's not good enough because the issues within our country around obesity, non-communicable diseases, diabetes continue. And yes, we can provide food and we'll alleviate the hunger situation right now, but where is the sustainability in that? Where is the long-term, how we can change behavior? How are we going to help parents, caregivers, households change behavior and alleviate some of those long-term issues in our country? And so we are working with some experts in the space around nutrition, hygiene, early childhood development to put together a program that can engage in a very empowering way parents and caregivers. So what I mean by that is parents and caregivers will still come to the ECD organization. We will give the ECD organization and the children at the center food, but the parents and caregivers, we'll also give them food. However, we want to use that as an opportunity to engage those parents, to empower them around certain knowledge, skills, around how to change things over time. You know, we need to talk to these parents and caregivers about the need to buy whole foods, the need to grow foods, and all those kinds of issues that we're going to start to have those conversations around. And so that's a lot of the work that we're going to be doing in this coming year. It's about stepping up. You know, again, it's like how many organizations out there have the ability to do what we can do, and it's no one's saying to us you need to do more. For goodness sake, we're going to put millions of meals out again this year, and that's good enough.
Yeah.
For us, it's not.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you know, putting out the millions of meals every year, from what you're saying, is kind of like putting the plaster over the wound. You know what I mean? So you know what I mean. But you need to get to the crux of the problem and the issue, and how you're going to solve that. So it's you know, you're kind of just dealing with the injury at the moment, but you need to actually find a solution. You know. And you know, one of the sort of constant themes that you're sort of chatting about that I picked up is which is very cool, is bringing in different experts along the way and realizing that this is what you guys do and you're really good at this, but we need all these other partners and collaborators to come in so that we can, you know, take it to the next level, for example, you know, which is encouraging because, you know, unfortunately, some of the experience that I've seen within, in fact, of all sectors, not just the nonprofit sector, but is the reluctancy to sort of bring on other partners or work with other organizations because there's very often an agenda there, you know, whether it's a funding agenda or what, you know, whatever it might be. But I think with, you know, and this is kind of what I wanted to chat to you a little bit as well. I think with the charity model as it is, and with the with COVID-19 and that charity funding pie is getting much smaller, you know, and so there's a necessity to work a lot closer with other partners and organizations, and so I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on that.
Last year we saw a lot of people struggling, a lot of people unemployed, a lot of people short paid, a lot of people on half pays, all that kind of stuff. But they were still willing to contribute. And that was an amazing thing that I saw. Even people that were struggling were in some way trying to contribute. I know it's going to get tougher. I know it's going to get, you know, this year it's going to be difficult. I mean, our team were having that conversation this morning around funding and how do we do things differently. I'm wearing a T-shirt, right? It's a Do More Friday T-shirt, and we sell these T-shirts. Thank you. We sell these T-shirts at home stores, and we're also going to be selling them online. And the idea with buying this T-shirt is to say, you buy this T-shirt for $270. It's a really nice, good quality T-shirt. But in the process, you feed a child for a month. So people, I believe people, you know, if you come with a charity mindset of give me money, people are like, I've got a lot of other things that I need to do. You go to them and say, here's a T-shirt for 270 Rand. You get a T-shirt that's really cool. Also, you're also saying to your friends and mates, hey, I do more because I contribute, and I contributed and fed a child for a month, and you do good. So I think
there's a value exchange as opposed to just one-sided ask.
Precisely. So I think going forward, I think there, you know, we yeah, we as a foundation are pretty brave in terms of some of the stuff we do. We really do push the boundary in terms of different thinking. We have a very fortunate, I report to a group of trustees. I see them 4 times a year. And within that, they give us the space to do whatever we need to do in order to accomplish our mission. So we are very fortunate and able to do like crazy things. 2 years ago, we did a sandwich thing. We said, you know, World Food Day coming up. How do we get awareness around children and funding and eating, and a peanut butter sandwich is a perfect example. How do we, okay, so big deal, peanut butter sandwich, but how do we make it exciting? So we said, well, let's break a world record for the most number of sandwiches made in an hour. At the time, we were like, oh my goodness, we are biting off too much. Yeah, and we did it. We beat the world record by a mile. And so as an organization, we do think differently. I mean, I think going forward, I mean, if you think about this, like if you had a choice between 2 brands and you knew that brand contributed to supporting feeding, it didn't cost you more to buy it versus another brand, which one did you buy? So there's opportunities like that you're not asking a consumer to fork out money. You just ask them to make a brand choice between 2, not costing you more, but you actually ultimately end up supporting young children. So I think organizations are going to have to think cleverly, have to think differently, have to work, you know, with you leverage partnerships, leverage relationships. It's all about relationships at the end of the day. So leverage those kinds of things. And again, we do that as an organization, again, linked to suppliers that we work with, etc. I think just on that, also what makes us a little different, again, is we are linked to a big foods company. So we are a completely separate nonprofit, but we are linked to a foods company. And I think with a big foods company and other potential funders understand that we have structures which we borrow from them. We have governance structures. So if they are providing us funds, it will be accounted for correctly. And I think that is a big concern within our country, is like, where's our money going?
Where's all the money going? Yeah.
Exactly. So, you know, where you do have trust in an organization, you can see, I mean, we are pretty active on social media just to share kind of what we're doing. So where you can see that, where you are seeing results through a foundation, where you know that there's good governance, you know, there are structures in place in order to manage that. I think then you can ask people, and I'm not saying I'm by no means saying it's easy, because it's not. And it's a struggle that we're going to have to deal with this year, but it's a struggle we are going to fight, and it's a struggle that we are going to endeavor to overcome, which is around getting more funding in, because the issues remain, and they are critical right now, which is around food. Food insecurity in our country is horrendous.
Yeah, I think you know, I think a lot of it comes down to, which is something that you guys I've seen are very good at, is social credibility in terms of like, and it starts from, you know, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, this is how we're doing it, and you're constantly providing that information. And eventually what happens is, from that content and that story that you're constantly telling, like, you're showing, like, we're creative, we're coming up with really good ideas, this is why we're different, these are the cool things we're doing, we're setting these you know, huge targets, and we're reaching them, and sometimes we might fall a little bit short, but that's cool, because we've come up with a bigger target here, you know what I mean? Like, so it's ambitious, and eventually what happens is that, you know, it might start off pretty small, but you gain momentum, you know, you gain momentum with that story and what's happening, and that's infectious, you know, people buy into that. So that when you do ask people to get involved and buy the t-shirt, for example, or whatever it is, people go, you know what, I've been following these guys for 6 months or whatever it might be. They're constantly trying to do more. They've got some crazy ideas. They've got this thing going on now. You know, like it's really simple to get involved, you know, in terms of like your donations and how you get involved. You know, you've got all the platforms set up and that kind of thing. It's a couple of clicks and you know, it's coming off your accounts, whatever it might be. So having that digital presence that's sort of ticked off makes it a lot easier to be able to get that funding and you know, and that's what I've seen. It's such a difficult thing for a lot of organizations to get right because it's a catch-22. You know what I mean? You need to potentially have that resource or whatever it might be, but at least you know, with the power of you know, social media that we have now and smartphones, and that you can, if you constantly just plugging away at that story, eventually it will hook on and it does gain momentum quickly.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's why, you know, a lot of the stuff you guys are doing, you're creating your own, I think Cara's doing, there's an ECD podcast that she's interviewing with a whole bunch of people and experts and thought leader experts and that kind of thing. And that builds social credibility and sets you as a thought leader in that particular sector, you know. So people are naturally drawn to that organization or like yourselves because they know, okay, if we're going to give some money to these guys, it's going to go to the right places. There's going to be an impact, and they can account for it, and they can tell us this is what's happened, you know. And I think that's critical, you know, in not just from a non-profits point of view, but just any organization really, you know. Yeah, so I think it bodes well for you guys for the future.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to add though. I mean, there's no way we could accomplish everything that we do without my amazing team that I have supporting me, right? So I do. I mean, you mentioned Cara, but I have a whole, I say a whole team. I think there's 12 people in our team, so we're really small.
Yeah.
I mean, we accomplish an incredible amount, but it's our partners that we have that enable us to do so much more, you know. So we are connected enough to be able to, you know, connect with the right people to do that work. But I just wanted to say, I do have a seriously incredible team. It's like we're in this together, and we kind of co-created our new kind of thinking of where we want to go, and the entire team is part of that. And we've got some really, really amazing people. So yeah, I'm very thankful for that.
Good, man. So Warren, I don't want to take up too much of more of your time, but you know, if people do want to get involved and any of the upcoming campaigns, maybe you want to just sort of mention and just give them a heads up. So just keep an eye out for.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, we continue to work in the communities that I mentioned earlier. We are continuing our fundraising campaign in order to feed young children across South Africa. We are, you know, and as you say, we've got the platform. So if anyone goes onto our website, www.domore.org.za, or they can find us on Facebook. They can very easily click into various links and see how they can contribute. And there's a whole lot of different ways that they can contribute. But yeah, I mean, if anyone would like to contact us, either our Facebook or support@domore.org.za, we'll respond to that. Or connect with us via Facebook, or connect with me personally. It's absolutely fine on Facebook as well. No problem.
Cool. Warren, thanks so much for your time, and all the very best for the year ahead. I'm looking forward to seeing how things move along.
Yeah, no, thank you. And thanks for giving us this opportunity.
No, it's an absolute pleasure, man. Love what you guys
Thanks,
are doing.
Greg.
Thanks, Abe.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye-bye. Ciao.